And okay, so what's your name?
My name is Darcy Greenough.
And what branch of the service were you in?
I was in the United States Marine Corps.
And when did that start?
That started in 1988 till 1992.
And considering there wasn't a draft or anything around that time, I assume you enlisted?
Yes, I enlisted.
How old were you when you enlisted?
I was 17 on the delayed entry program until I was 18. As soon as I graduated high school, then I went into boot camp.
And what was boot camp like?
Boot camp was really tough, really tough. A lot of physical, but most of it was mental, mind games. They say that there's 11 forms of brainwashing, and the Marine Corps uses 7 out of those 11 forms. And the mind games is what really separates the Marines from the rest.
How did you get through all that?
I'm too scared to quit. You couldn't quit.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. So it was fear. It was like you had to see it through.
And what type of work did you perform while in the service?
Well, as a Marine, the first thing everybody is a rifleman. So everybody does their rifleman, infantry skills. Then you got a secondary job. My secondary job was a 1391 bulk fuel specialist. So we refueled everything that moved or flew.
And did they happen to teach you any of that, anything else, or?
I had to go to school in Fort Lee, Virginia, which was actually a Army base to learn that bulk fuel specialist school. So.
And where did you end up serving?
After school in Virginia, I went to Camp Hansen in Okinawa, Japan for a year. And then from there, I went various places like Philippines, Korea, got to fly real close to China during an operation. Then from there, I went back to Camp Lejeune just to get fapped out to Cherry Point, they're both in North Carolina. From Cherry Point, that was going to be my last duty station, except for the Gulf War broke out, so they sent me to the Gulf War. And after the Gulf War, went back to Cherry Point, North Carolina, and got out.
And so switching topics a little bit, how was the food?
The food, if you ate it from a Marine Corps chow hall, it wasn't very good. But every once in a while, we'd luck out and get to go to an Air Force base, which was like a 5-star restaurant. They got it made, so.
And how are the rules?
The rules are pretty strict. They're different than, it's almost like the military's got its own law. What you could get away with in the civilian world, you couldn't get away with in, the service. So they were pretty strict. You're representing your country, so, it has to be.
Did you happen to break any rules?
A few times, yeah. Yeah, that's the fun part about it, I'm not going to tell you what I did, but yeah, there was a lot of rules broken.
You end up staying out past curfew?
That and doing things out in town.
And so what was the weather like in all of your stations?
The weather in Virginia was kind of like it is here. It snowed a little bit. I guess it's not as windy. But then when I went to Okinawa, Japan, it was really humid. 110 degrees, you'd sweat before you're done taking a shower. It was a jungle atmosphere. Then North Carolina was also humid. I lived right on the coast. Over in Saudi Arabia, where we first landed for Desert Storm, at night it was cold. It was, you needed Carhartts on. It was freezing in the desert. So, and then, as the season changed, it would turn and it would get hot. So you had from one extreme to the other.
And you ended up serving in wars, as I heard. So how did you travel to those places?
For the Gulf War, for Desert Shield and Storm, we flew in a C-5 Galaxy from Cherry Point, basically to Saudi Arabia, and we flew back. So luckily I didn't. Some people took ships. Marines are notorious for going with hitching a ride with the Navy, and that's no fun. So I'm glad that I was just in the right place at the right time.
And what was your unit named?
The main unit I was in was called CSSD 21, which stands for Combat Service Support Detachment. We were detached to 8th Engineers Support Battalion, so we supported the grunts, the infantry units. So,
And how big was that unit?
huge. My CSSD 21, there was only 48 of us. The whole 8th Engineers was like a division size, four or five different companies, with 4 platoons each and so on and so forth. I haven't really done the math, but you're looking at quite a few people. But my unit itself was only 48 of us, which is nice. It was small.
And how close did your unit get from the front lines?
We were over the front lines. We were into Kuwait when the liberation started. The ground war started, and we pushed in probably, I'm guessing, maybe 3 to 4 miles in before the war was pretty much over. It happened so quick. It was, I think we got the record. It was less than 100 hours, so we still hold the world record for the fastest ground war.
And did you ever see or hear the enemy at all?
Yeah, we caught the enemy a couple times in our fuel farm. They were called spotters, is what we called them. They'd go in, they'd spot, and then call back to artillery, range it, so they could blow up our fuel, because if they blew up the fuel, the infantry couldn't go forward, as fast with their tanks and Humvees and equipment, so they'd try to stop it right there. Didn't work for them. We never lost a single gallon. They'd draw, maps. We'd find them with maps on them and stuff. But yeah, we caught, at a couple occasions, we caught 3 in one occasion and 4 in another occasion trying to do it, so.
And at your different stations, where did you sleep? What did you live in?
Well, in boot camp, it was in barracks, what they call open squad bays, where you don't have a private room. It's just a big Quonset hut, basically full of bunk beds, Actually, then in Okinawa, it was the same way. Since then, they're tore down. You got like a 4-man condo. In between, in the field, we slept in a foxhole, on the ground, or wherever we could. There was, like in the jungle in Okinawa, I slept for 48 days in a foxhole that was with one other, my foxhole buddy, with water up to our chest for 48 days, never leaving. And then when we got to Saudi Arabia for the Gulf War, we slept on the tarmac, I know, for a good 2 weeks before they figured out where they wanted to put us. So it was kind of a big saying was just hurry up and wait. So we hurried up and waited on the tarmac.
And what was your most frightening experience?
When I was in the Gulf War, and there was AT&T put up what's called a tent city. It was full of phones, 300, 400, 500 phones, a bunch. Well, the day that the ground war started, I lucked out and got to go over there and call home. And my wife was watching CNN and said, hey, the ground war's getting ready to start. It's like, nah, it ain't, just kind of trying to pass fire. And about that time, an artillery round from the Iraqis hit that tent, knocked out all communications. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. All we had was, the U.S. mail. And it was pretty slow because, you had the military that held it for a while. And so I actually, had to write home and tell my wife that I was okay. Well, I actually beat the letter home. So there was a long time there that she didn't know if I was alive, dead, wounded, or whatever. That frightened me, just knowing, with everything that was going on in her mind, everything that was going on in my son's mind, things like that. So.
And what was your most exciting experience?
I was really, really excited when I graduated boot camp and actually earned what they call the EGA, the Eagle Globe and Anchor, because no one can never take that away from you. So I was excited when that happened.
And what was your most interesting experience?
When I was in the Gulf War, we were down in this little trench. There was an Iraqi division maybe 200 yards away from us. And a Marine Corps Harrier flew over us, seen us, didn't know if we were the enemy or not, and he swung back, stopped in midair, pointed his gun. He's got a 30 millimeter Gatling gun, pointed it at us and just kind of looked us all up and down the road. We didn't know if he was going to fire or not. We didn't have any communication with the pilot whatsoever. Luckily, the Marine made the right choice, figured out we were Marines, turned around, went 200 yards upfield, and did his business. So that was interesting.
And what do you think people today should know about what you went through? What do we need to remember?
Just remember that you might think you know what they've went through, but you don't necessarily know. Just give them the respect that they deserve. They don't deserve anything more than any other human being. Just cut them some slack especially if they just got out. It's really, really hard to adjust from being told what to do and telling other people what to do and adjusting when you come to the civilian world. It's really tough. Some people never do adjust. So give them a break or teach them.
And were you awarded any medals or citations during your service?
I got a few what's called meritorious mass, which is basically a letter from the top of your chain of command saying good job on different, ops or things like that. I've got meritoriously promoted to corporal at the age of 19, which is really young. Most people didn't even make corporal until they had served over 4 years in my field, so that was nice. I got Kuwaiti Liberation Kuwait Medal, Kuwaiti Liberation Saudi Medal, Good Conduct Medal, which is a real good one for Marines to get because basically means that you just didn't get caught.
And what was the highest rank you achieved?
E4 Corporal.
How did you stay in touch with your family at the time?
At the time, it was either telephone, if you had one. There was no internet or computers, or it was mail. That was it.
Was there anything you did for special good luck before anything?
Yeah, our unit, when we went over, we had a deck of cards. Everybody drew a card. My card was 7 of clubs. So everywhere I went, I had a 7 of clubs in my wallet. I guess I'm still here, so it's got to work.
And how did the Marines entertain themselves?
Oh, they're like monkeys. It doesn't take much. No, we didn't eat crayons. We'd play cards or talk about home, or if someone had a newspaper from home, they'd share it with everybody else. It was, interesting to read, up on your buddy's life, from some total different area, things like that.
And what did you do when you weren't, on the front lines?
It was bored. Wartime is actually really, really boring. There's only few times where it gets excited, chaotic, and your adrenaline's running. 95% of the time is boring. You'd look for things to do. You'd be so bored. That might even dig a hole, fill a sandbag, whatever. Sleep if you could. Sleep was hard to come by, especially at night. But during the day, if you could sleep, you were golden.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
We had this guy who was Puerto Rican. His name was Martin. Last name was Martin. He was really, really fast. He could run really, really fast. We were in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, and this herd of camels comes walking right through our camp. Well, there's this big dark one. He ventures out and he's going to pet this camel. Well, this camel starts jogging, so Martin starts jogging. Camel starts running faster. Martin starts running faster. And pretty soon it's a race. And Martin's chasing this camel in the middle of the desert, and this camel turns his head around and looks at him and then just plants his feet, stops, chases him all the way back to the camp. And he must have thought he was getting a little too far out there, but that was funny. I wish I would have got a video of that. But.
And so do you have any photographs of your time in the service?
Yes, I do. I got quite a few from different places, and a lot of my buddies, a lot of the actual landscaping and equipment and stuff that we used.
So are you still in close contact with any of those buddies?
Yeah, real close contact. We talk either now. It's nice, we got internet, Facebook, and things like that. Or you can text somebody so you don't have to carry on a whole conversation, for 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's every day I talk to one of them.
Were you able to go to school during the service?
Not necessarily school, like college. Some people were, but our unit was really busy. So you didn't really have time. I'm not going to say it was impossible, but it wasn't probable for me anyway.
Did you join a veterans organization after getting out?
Yes, I did. I joined the local VFW post here in Aurora, where I'm a lifetime member of the VFW, and it's been great. You know, I've had the opportunity to be post commander a couple times, and it's the camaraderie there is great, and I like hearing the other stories from the older, wiser vets, and it's just it's a good thing. You know, we give back to the community, and it's nice.
And what did you do for a career after the war?
Many of things. I worked at hospital manufacturing. We manufactured hospital equipment. Then I went to weld. I was a welder at the ethanol plant that was up here that was being built, and I actually hired on to the ethanol plant. Have done. Then, you know, from there I went and worked, installed fuel pumps. So kind of back to my Marine Corps second job, you know, and then I actually was a fuel manager for a company out of Grand Island, and now I actually a general manager for a Kenworth store. So kind of a wide range there.
And did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military or anything like that?
It needs to be done. People need to realize that, you know, I went in the Marine Corps, went to war, and I've also got two sons that followed my footsteps. They both went to the Marine Corps and went to war. The thing that some people I've come to realize is it can't always be somebody else's son. You know, somebody's got to step up to the plate and do it. So that's, you know, that's what makes our country free. I don't believe in the draft. I think that would ruin a lot of what we've got going on in the service, you know, good things. Our volunteer Army is the best in the world.